Hello everyone, this is Sean, and this is Utah Day 2, January 28th, 2015. And these are the pictures that don't include Valley of the Gods, because as you saw from the earlier video, that was enough by itself. Now, I got up quite early in the morning. I think it was 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock in the morning, and you can see the sunrise there. And I found my way to a site called Hole in the Rock, which was basically a home within the giant rock face mountain that the man had built for his wife, and he and his wife lived there for, I guess it was several decades or something. And so I thought that was a neat place to see at the beginning of the day before I made my way down the highway to Valley of the Gods and Monument Valley. And you can see the little truck in the field, almost like something from Cars. For all we know, the Utah scenes were the inspiration for the movie Cars. And you can see the hydro lines across the top of the rocks and the distant mountains in the background. That's probably La Salle Mountains or something. And of course, I got a bit of pictures on my way to the site. Now there's the hole in the rock white paint on the wall. So I had to approach it from the other side, and you can see the Utah map with the flash inconveniently in the middle. But there's a better picture without the glare of the sun in the way. You can actually see something now. And that's quite dark, but you see the sun was just rising. I think that's it on the left side of the upper rock. And there you can see the desert landscape of Utah with the beautiful blue sky and everything, and a tiny little something up at the top of the rock there. And then, of course, I started making my way around to the other side of the thing, and you saw, the memorial for the man who built the hole in the rock house. And the almost like a Tin Man statue out there. So they had all the, the small rusted vehicles and everything that looked like something right out of the movie Cars. And of course, the little mannequin in the trolley wheeling himself across the big hydro line well above the rocks. And I think that is the gravesite for the man's wife. And those are probably carved out graves by their kids or something. That's a giant stone turtle. That's not a real turtle. And I think the next picture shows an elk or maybe even a mountain lion or a cow, and that's made of cast iron, I believe. And then, of course, you see the collection of license plates on the billboard there. So I don't know if that 6 implies Utah Route 6. And of course, it looks like that wheel on that Jeep is made up entirely of locks or something. Oh, Hole in the Rock had a zoo, and it was somehow related to Route 66. Don't worry, I see that after my Las Vegas trip. There's a wide angle view, but that's not going to be the thumbnail. I picked up a fridge magnet in that souvenir shop. The thumbnail will come later. And now you get a closer look at what was on the top of that rock. It was a tiny white Jeep way up there. And after I was done there, then I went exploring further down the road on my way to Valley of the Gods, and I ended up encountering a giant rock that looked really interesting, and there was no one else around. Looking Glass Rock, which is one of the sites that was actually mentioned on my Michelin guidebook in the Utah pages. And of course, you can see the different views around the area. And then I started climbing up one side of the rock face to get a good view through the, well, I guess you could call it a hole in the rock, but it was Looking Glass Rock, It's interesting. Some of the pictures are brighter than the others, but you see how you can get quite close if you scramble up there? Of course, this was not my... And see what you're rewarded with as you look through the arch? Because that's basically a fat arch. And look at the tiny little tree hanging on for dear life. Then I walked around to the other side, and you can see the long path to get up there. That is the opposite angle from before. And you can see the areas around and everything. And so I started making my scrambling ascent up that side of the tiny arch. And when I got to the top, of course, you can see the roof above you. And I took one of my few selfies in the sun. And you can see, even though it was late January, it was warm enough in Utah. I just needed that t-shirt and a collared shirt. And then you're getting very close to the archway here. Took another view of the roof. And another selfie of me. And then you get to Wilson Arch. So I'm going to... The view through the rock, which you saw previewed in several spots, because you saw that earlier in the video. And then Wilson Arch is another site I saw. Now it had warning signs, don't walk on top of the arch. So I made sure, of course, not to do that. I just went up to it. And you look at the sites beside it, and you see the valley in the background. That's probably Valley of the Gods, maybe even Monument Valley, because you were quite a few dozen kilometers up the road. And there's the winding road. And there's a close-up view of Wilson Arch itself, and you see the first tiny little speckles of snow. And of course, there I am again, not wearing my hat, but that's a great view. And you see the first traces of snow that I'd seen on that entire trip were right there. And of course, I got views from the different angles within the arch of the landscape itself. And if you look very closely in the center of the picture, the tiny little dot on the road, that's my car. That's how far away we were. That's how high up we are. And there's the top of Wilson Arch itself. You can see the beautiful sandstone. Now you see these landscapes here. I don't know what that's called, but all I got was pictures of it from the side of the road, because my priority on this day was to get to Valley of the Gods and explore every bit of it. But at least I got the landform pictures en route. That day I didn't think to take any video at all, because I didn't imagine that 10 years later I'd be putting these videos up on YouTube for vlogging purposes. And you can see some small mountains, high enough, of course, that they have snow on them. Some La Salle National Forest, Devil's Canyon. There's a close-up view of the mountain, the one you saw from before. That's not the last mountain I would see up close on my trip. And look, there's a tiny little river. Or a little lake. There's another mountain, see? But when I said that's not the first mountain I'd see on this trip, I meant that when I went home, I passed through Northern California, and I actually went to Mount Shasta. So that's a preview of a later video. I'm just going to go through all of January of 2015 from beginning to end. That road trip, it extended into February 2015. That's a beautiful picture. Oh, look, almost looks like some kind of crater. And look at that mountains in the distance. Those are probably the southern edge of the La Salle Mountains, maybe even the Rockies. It's hard to tell. It's quite beautiful, though. There's some more of the rock formations on the side of the road. If you look at the next picture, you'll see some of the angles in some of the rock, and distant, almost mesas, or mesas, however you pronounce it, in the background. And look, there's the road in the center of your screen. There's one lone car on the road going through the formations. It's quite beautiful. So it was a slightly cloudy day, but not so overcast that you couldn't see everything, fortunately. And you can, I mean, none of these pictures have been enhanced, so that is the true blue of the sky and the true red of the desert dirt. And one lone tree standing as a sentinel on the horizon among the scrub brush. And there is a picture with one lone hydro pole with mountains in the far background on the far left. So I started making my way south, and there wasn't much more to see until I got to Valley of the Gods, as you can see looking out from the side of my car. So hopefully you enjoyed this video, January 28th of my Utah road trip, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.